G'day guys, Tim here, guy in the hat today with my very good friend and associate from Adams Bullion, Sam. Lawrie, how are you, Sam?
Fantastic as always, Tim. Great to be with you.
Always a pleasure, my friend. And today we're going to be talking about markets. We're going to be talking about gold and silver, of course,
Mhm.
and what's happening in the world. And of course, who better than to ask than the expert himself? He's young, he's handsome, he's intelligent. Reminds me a lot of myself, actually, but well, 20 something years ago, it would have reminded me of myself. Anyway, Sam, where are the markets? What's happening in the marketplace? Over to you, Sammy.
So, where to start? Well, I guess the big news to get started with is interest rates. So, in the last month or so, we've seen the US Federal Reserve drop their interest rates by 0.5%. And we've also seen the Chinese drop their interest rates and print about $1 trillion out of thin air and shove it into their stock market. So, the Chinese stock market has had an incredible month. It did come off a bit in the last few days, but it's had an incredible month. And so have the commodities. So gold setting new all-time highs every day, it seems, at the moment. We've had a tiny pullback over the last few days, but that seems to be over already. Hope everyone bought the dip there. And same with silver. Again, it's clearly on the way up at the moment. Nice big move upwards. Had a small pullback over the last few days, but yesterday we went up 2% for the day. So again, it seems like that pullback's over. So onwards and upwards from here is my read on the situation, particularly given that central banks are dropping interest rates in the face of high inflation. I see that as them surrendering to high inflation. You know, the whole logic for the last few years as to why they've been increasing interest rates so quickly is to fight inflation. And then here they are dropping interest rates. So that should tell you something about how serious they are about it. So yeah, in terms of the markets, gold, silver, platinum, all moving nicely to the upside, off the back of central banks cutting interest rates in the face of high inflation. Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic, Sam. So, what should people be buying right now? So, somebody walks into Adams Bullion.
Mhm.
What should people be buying? What's the first thing? What's the first conversation you're having with people at the moment?
So, look, the first conversation I'm having with people is around the particular metal that they're buying. So, look, gold's, as I said, setting new all-time highs. That seems to be taking center stage at the moment in people's minds. They're thinking, wow, gold's doing really well. Maybe I should get some. And lots of first-timers coming into the store, wanting to learn more about the precious metals, how to get involved, what it all looks like. So, yeah, new all-time highs is definitely bringing new buyers in, bringing new interest into the space, which is fantastic to see. Now, something that I am telling people at the moment is, look, gold's running and gold will continue to run. So don't let me talk you out of gold. But the general saying in the markets or the general rule is that gold moves first and then silver moves further. So we've seen gold move first, which should have you as a buyer focused on silver, which is about to move further. So again, look, if you want to buy some gold, by all means, hop in. Price will still continue on upwards, in my opinion, but silver is where your focus should be. It hasn't really got started yet. We still haven't broken the highs from back in May that were set. So whilst gold's setting new all-time highs, as I said, seemingly every day now, silver's yet to overtake those highs from May. So once it does, it's going to be all systems go, rocket ships engaged. So you should be thinking at the moment, watching gold run up, you should be thinking silver and also platinum as well, because platinum follows silver. But silver is the one that's about to go.
Absolutely. So you mentioned platinum.
Mhm.
Palladium is the other one that's the outlier. Now, what a lot of every now and then I get someone on my channel say, where does palladium sit on the whole scheme of things?
Yeah, so look, platinum and palladium, they're not monetary metals like gold and silver, so they don't have that 5,000 year history as being money, which is probably why you don't really focus on them with your channel, being a monetary metals advocate. So look, they're still precious metals. They're part of the precious metals family. They're not as liquid as gold and silver, so they're not as heavily traded, which means that particularly for palladium, less so for platinum, but particularly for palladium, buying and selling it in a physical form, you can the transaction costs are a bit higher, the spreads to get in and out, because it's not as liquid, and that's why I wouldn't necessarily recommend buying physical palladium particularly. Look, platinum's more liquid, perfectly fine, but physical palladium's just not liquid enough. So whilst it is an interesting investment case and will probably move up with the rest of the precious metals, I just don't view it as quite as good an investment as gold, silver, and platinum. And something to keep in mind is for the Australian investors out there, which Australian channel, so I'll talk about that quickly. The ATO does not classify palladium as a precious metal like it does gold, silver, and platinum. So gold, silver, and platinum, when you buy gold, silver, and platinum bullion in Australia, you do not pay GST, 10% GST, you don't pay it. Whereas for palladium, you do pay the 10% GST. So when you buy palladium, you have to pay tax. And when you sell it, you don't get that 10% back. So again, that's one of the reasons I don't necessarily recommend buying physical palladium, even though I do expect the price to go up. Gold, silver, and platinum are the way to go. A, they're more liquid. B, there's no GST.
Yeah, so silver and gold. Let's go back to silver and gold. Great explanation,
No,
by the way,
thank you.
Sam. I mean, amazing. Silver and gold are, it's interesting. We use these words like hedge assets, safe haven,
Mhm.
positions, all these
Mhm.
things. How important are gold and silver as a safe haven asset?
They are the safe haven asset, particularly gold. In the financial sector, they call gold the fear metal. When people run towards something, when the markets go bad, when there's panic in the markets, when anything goes really wrong in the world, geopolitical risk, Iran shooting rockets at Israel, things like that, that's when gold really kicks into gear. So, on that note, last week we saw Iran shoot some rockets at Israel. That night, I watched the gold price jump 75 Aussie dollars in one day, which is a big move. So, yeah, when things go bad in the world, people run towards gold, less so silver, but more so towards gold. And then silver plays catch up afterwards, which is exactly what we saw last week with the whole Iran-Israel thing. So, yeah, whether it be geopolitical risk, the threat of World War III, whether it be banking system collapse, whether it be stock market collapse or real estate collapse, the minute that people start to get worried about other asset classes, they run straight into the precious metals, which moves price upwards.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, one of the things we've learnt in this field is that people in the middle class tend to go for real estate above all other things.
Yes.
Um, so here's the issue. I mean, we've got our own opinions on what happens to real estate on this reset. I
Hmm.
personally don't think it's going to fare very well.
I agree.
My question is, why is it that the middle class don't look at any other asset other than real estate? They're stuck in this thing. Why don't they see hedge assets or safe haven? What is the problem?
Well, for me, I see it as a lack of education. Most Australians, talk about Australia here, most Australians seem to understand real estate to some form or another. My parents bought a house. The house has increased in dollar value. That sounds like a good idea to me. I want something that increases in dollar value. I'm going to do the safe option. Safe as houses is the saying. I don't agree with that saying, but that is the saying. So, of course, their first option, the first thing they think of is what they've had other people around them doing, what their family's done, what their friends are doing. It's almost like a social kind of um, phenomenon where, okay, well, if all my mates are buying real estate and all my family's buying real estate, and humans are herd animals fundamentally, then the herd runs towards real estate. And on the way up, that's amazing. If you bought real estate 30, 40 years ago, then the price of it has moved up considerably from there. But we're moving into a new economic paradigm. Inflation has kicked into gear. Interest rates are on the way up. Land taxes on the way up. All of these things are changing and changing rapidly. So I don't necessarily think that real estate is going to be the place to be during this reset. And something to consider historically speaking here for a second is that the last time inflation was as bad as it is today was the 1970s. Now, I often mention that in the 1970s, gold went from 35 US dollars an ounce in 71 all the way up to $850 an ounce in 1980. This is US dollars. That's a 33x in 9 years. Put 10 grand in, pull $330,000 out. Keep in mind that during that same time period, 71 to 1980, real estate just moved sideways in dollar terms. And keep in mind the dollar lost a lot of value during that time period. So in real terms, real estate dropped in value over a 10-year period. So during a decade in which the share market moved sideways in dollar terms and real estate moved sideways in dollar terms, people that were mainly allocated to those two investment classes made a real loss, whereas those who were diversified and allocated towards precious metals had the best decade of their lives in the investment landscape. So, what's the saying? History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And that's what I see the rhyme being this time around. Precious metals to outperform, property and stocks to underperform.
Ah, fantastic explanation, Sam, as always. So it seems to me, based on what you're saying, the two main reasons why people hang on to real estate is, first of all, education, and also this fear factor. None of my friends, no one I know is doing gold and silver. What? Oh, were you telling me to do gold and silver?
Yep.
So what does it take for somebody, a lot of people listening to this may not be investors in gold and silver. They might be hanging on to real estate. What is it going to take to move those people's mindset from, okay, there is a little more beyond real estate than just real estate? Is there something that people have to go through? Is there something that has to happen to them? How do people have the confidence, is what I guess I'm asking here, to know this is the right thing to do? How, that's the thing.
And what a question. I mean, look, I think that, first of all, the gold and silver prices moving up is bringing more and more attention to the space. So a lot of people who were not thinking of gold and silver a few years ago are now definitely thinking of it today. Here in Victoria, we're also seeing the property market come off.
Yes.
So the combination of those two things, where something that's worked for the last 30 to 40 years is starting to not work so well.
Right.
People are racking up some pretty nasty property losses out there. And on the other hand, something that they may not have thought of is now working very well. So I look at it as a matter of time, and I am seeing more and more of this at the moment. People coming in, looking to sell properties, looking to put that into gold and silver. So it's already happening. But as those two phenomenon continue into the future, the gold and silver price is doing better and better, setting new all-time highs, more eyes on the space, etc. Combine that with the pain in the property market, and I think more and more people are going to wake up and say, you know what, this asset that I thought would perform really well isn't performing well. This other asset that I thought nothing about is performing really well. Maybe I should make the switch. And we're seeing more and more of that here at Adams Bullion.
And I guess the big question and this might help people understand your position a bit more. If you had the opportunity between, let's just pick a random figure, $1 million property or $1 million worth of bullion silver. I mean, I want to see how long it takes you to answer this question, but which one would you go for?
To me, the choice is obvious, and I'll say why. So let's say that at the beginning of the year, I had $1 million property. Well, in Victoria, we're seeing 20-30% drops across the board. So that property is now worth, we'll be generous here, 800K. And we won't talk about stamp duty, fees, taxes, levies, none of that. 800K. Now, that $1 million worth of bullion at the beginning of the year, particularly if it was silver, would be worth over 1.3 million now. So instead of losing $200,000, I could have made
So that's a $500,000 difference in the position.
A $500,000 difference
by just changing the asset.
And the year hasn't finished yet. We're only 10 months in, and it's already $500,000 difference.
And would you say silver's, I mean, it's arguable. I mean, silver's not even on a bull market at this point.
Well, that's it. We still haven't set new all-time highs yet. In US dollars, that is. In Aussie dollars, we have, but in US dollars, which is the world reserve currency and the more important currency to measure things in here, we haven't even set new all-time highs. So the party hasn't even really got started for silver yet, and we've already seen that $500,000 difference. So in my mind, Sam, would you rather $1 million property or $1 million of silver? Silver every day of the week, hands down.
So, all right. So last question. So silver is exciting because it's so suppressed. It's been so managed down. When it breaks out, first of all, two questions. Well, three questions. One, could it break out? Two, when is it likely to break out? And three, how far can it run? Yeah, sorry to
questions. There you go. So, look, in terms of the breakout, I see silver breaking the May highs that it made in the next few weeks. Could be as early as next week. It could break that high. When it breaks that high, I think the next stop is going to be the $40 per ounce level. Now, I think we will see a pullback at 40, probably back down to 35. And then once we drop back to that 35 level, the next step is 50. Now, again, I think we'll have a pullback at the $50 level, maybe back down to 45 or 43. And then once we go again through that 50 level, that will be new all-time highs in US dollars. It's going to be blue skies from there, which means that the silver price, in my opinion, is going to take off like a rocket
So that's
ship.
price discovery.
That's price discovery. That's when things go crazy. You need to be positioned before then. Otherwise, you're going to be paying double than what you'd be paying now. And it will move significantly from there. Even buying it at 50 US dollars an ounce once it breaks will still be a good investment, still be a good trade. But you'd be getting almost double as much silver if you buy it today. And that's why the opportunity is now. Now, before silver hits new all-time highs, before it breaks through 50 US dollars an ounce, because 50 US dollars an ounce is still almost double where we are now. Even at 50, it'll still be a good buy, but it's doubly a good buy today.
And final question. When do people more likely buy? Do they buy when the market's just cruising at the moment, or do they buy once it starts to break out?
This is something that I don't want to use the word frustrates me, but it's something that I notice where, particularly in Western countries, people seem to buy when price has already moved. I mean, look, I can understand that. Price moves in a big way. Everyone gets really excited. They think, oh, now this is a good investment. Now I need to jump in. And look, whilst buying gold and silver in a bull market is always a good idea, in my opinion, it's an even better idea to get in before the bull move really happens, because then you're in the asset for the really big move. You get to benefit from that really big move rather than sitting on the sidelines for it. You get a better price for your investment on the way in, so you make more money, considerably more money. And that's why I say that you need to get in before the breakout, before things start going really crazy, and get the best entry price that you can on this asset.
100%. Well, you've heard it from the man himself, someone who I consider to be probably the foremost expert on commodities in this country, especially silver, which is your baby, and you do it so well. Well, that's it from me. Of course, the guy in the hat, Sam from Adams Bullion. Oh, so how do they get in contact with you, Sam? What's the quickest way?
Yeah, so hop on our website, adamsbullion.com, and we've got a phone number there that you can call during the business day, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday. You can also send us an email or reach out via social media, whatever suits you best there. So yeah, just get in touch.
Fantastic. Well, that's it for me. Sam from Adams Bullion. Tim, of course, the guy in the hat, beat the reset. In the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed this quick market update. Always fantastic. Hope you're looking after your health and your wealth. And as always, make good choices.